Hi guys, right now in the countryside of French Normandy with really great landscapes and cows everywhere. I hope you're doing well. Okay, if you've been spending a lot of time on Logic Pro editing your articulation set, I may come with a very nice solution for you because I'm releasing my first software ever right now. A very great tool to batch, edit and create and manage all your articulation sets. The name is Loïc Articulation Set Editor. Loïc's my name. Yeah, that's very funny. Okay, let's see that now. So it all starts with my website, my new website, loicdesjardins.com. I'll put this in the description below because you're not supposed to know how to spell it. On this website, you'll be able to create an account and see a bit more about LASE product, and you can add it to the cart and buy it. And you can use a code YouTube 10 at checkout to lift 10% off. On your account, once you have logged in, you can review the product you own. You can download them, and I've got two versions, one for the Mac Intel, one for the Mac ARM, or the M generation, more generally speaking, and the license you've been using, and you can revoke those license. More on that after. You can also redeem a voucher, if I'm making one for you, and change some details about your account. So once you have downloaded and installed LASE, you launch it and you'll get that. This is the license management, and I offer you two ways of registering and activating the app, online and offline. Online activation requires internet every time you will launch the app, and it's very straightforward. You would just activate online, then you are redirected to the website. It's so quick you can barely see it, and now you got the application running. If you want to review your account and your license, is very straightforward. You got this information button here, and you'll get some detail about your license, of course. And from the app you can also revoke the license. Why would you do that? It's, for example, if you are installing a new machine, you can just remove the activation on one machine and just activate it on the other machine. So let's revoke and start the app again to review the offline activation. Offline activation has a bit more steps. You can just generate the license file. It will create a device.dt file that goes into your download folder, and you can open the folder. Once you've done that, you just go to that website and you choose your device.dt. You can download the file, which is license token something, and then if you go back to LASE, you would just upload the license file. You'll pick it up from your download file and you're done. And if you want to check again, then the license will specify that it's offline license. So whether you want offline, online, you're covered. Now let's start with the app itself. Very straightforward because it looks exactly like the Logic Pro one, the native one, with the three tabs: articulations, switches and outputs. So you are in safe territory. So you can create a new one, or you can load a plist file provided you have already saved one. How to do that? You have to go to Logic and you get your articulation set, and maybe you didn't save it yet because it's saved with the project. It doesn't mean that there is necessarily a plist file. So if you want to do a plist file, let's just get one, any, and you get your articulation set and you do save as, and you'll be redirected to that directory when you can just save the articulation set. And once it's done, it's available for LASE. So I'm choosing a file that I've already prepared, and more on that later at the end of the video when I'm doing a speed run. Then you will use the articulations. You can create as many articulations as you want in the limit of 255. I guess it's the natural limit of Logic. And let's review a little bit how it works. You've got the name here. You can pick up a color. There is a color picker here. And the color here is just for internal usage. It doesn't mean that the color will look like this in Logic, because Logic has its own logic in attributing the colors and totally ignores the kind of parameters. You can, of course, attribute a channel and choose a symbol. Every time it's one single click, no double click. I hate double clicks. And you can change also the number here, but be aware that if there is any discrepancy, like if the number is already taken, you'll get an error message, of course. You can also delete a line if you want, and you can add another line. Let's get rid of it. There are a couple of switches here that can change a bit the layout, so you can choose which column you want to see or not, and there is a column here called ID. You can also use filters, so if you want to filter, for example, every name that contains long, another way you can do it here also, but if you use the search here, it's looking in every column, not only the name. You can change the density if you want a more loose look or a more dense look. Let's keep it to standard, and you can even export the list as a CSV or print it. Now, let's review what happens when you are multi-selecting lines. You can select as many as you want, all your lines if you want. And now you can attribute the same channel for every line. You can attribute the same symbol also. You can attribute the same color from the picker. And you can also do an auto color feature. And the auto color, the way it works is it kind of detecting some keywords in the name and attributing a color. And I will put a chart here so that you can kind of guess the colors I'm using. Of course, you can batch delete, and you can use that prefix. I love to have prefix in front of my articulation names, so I can use here the prefix. I can get rid of it or add one. By default, this is this, but I can change that. If I prefer to use dash, for example, I can just type -00 point, for example, and you've got that. So if you like me to have very straightforward numbering of your articulations, you can just use the prefix. Now let's review the next switch, which is output. Output, again, it works like Logic Pro, and you've got first the option to work on single output or multiple output. It works like Logic. So here you've got your articulation number, and you've got the 3 outputs that you can set. A word about the attributes. It works exactly here, the type as in Logic. So depending on the event you're choosing, you'll get some data available or not. Not off, not on. They open the way for MIDI notes, but if you change that for controller, for example, there is no MIDI note anymore, but you have to set a CC value and a value. That's it for aftertouch, for example. It's just the value. For poly aftertouch, it's the MIDI note and a value, and there is no CC. I'll put a chart here so that you can kind of understand how it works. Again, this is very straightforward, and if you don't need another articulation, you just leave it blank. Let's go back to the simple one, and again, we'll do the batch editing. So I'm selecting them all. I can change the type, attribute them, for example, not on, and I can change, attribute a channel. I can attribute a MIDI note for every line. This is very useful when you're using poly aftertouch. And if you're using, for example, controller, you can set a CC number that will be shared for all the lines. Here I'm using the 32, and you can set the value as well. I don't know why you would do that, but maybe, well, who knows? It's available. Let's go back to MIDI note on, and then here you can just change for each line the value you want. Okay. Auto CC, they will attribute consecutive CC when you are using the CC mode, the control mode, and auto value, it's in all the other modes. When you click on that, it will set the values as increments. Let's complete our tour of the settings with the switches. So switches, by default, when you're starting a project, when you're starting an articulation set in Logic, it looks like this. It's always blank, and you need to add each row like that by just clicking and then filling everything, and it's really cumbersome to do so. So I've created this autofill feature. It's very simple. First, you choose the status, what kind of event you want to use for triggering your articulation. Let's say we are using controller. If you choose controller, you'll be asked here to set the controller number, the CC number. So let's say 32. And for poly aftertouch, it turns to a MIDI note selector. Switch back to controller, 32. Then it will generate all the lines for you, but it needs a starting point. So the starting point, you can either base it on the articulation ID, which means that it will just follow the articulation number, or you can make it incremental and start with the value you want. There is a starting value here. And by the way, you can change also the mode in the same screen. So let's do that, apply, and you're done. Most of the time, you've done 99% of the switches work here with 3 clicks. It's great, right? Okay, now let's review a little bit the different options. If you want still to do it manually, you still have the possibility to change the status here and to change the mode here and to change the CC value in case you are using the controller status. There is also something I want to show you that I think is very useful when you're dealing with the low and high values. You might want to change this. And for example, if you change the value that has an overlap with existing value, and I will just put 5, for example, here, and then you will see all the lines that are conflicting with the setting you made. It's very convenient to spot inconsistencies, which Logic doesn't offer. So you can switch back it to 1, and as you see, the conflict is resolved. Another thing that might be useful is that if you start dealing and deleting stuff and deleting lines, for example, here I'm deleting the line 6, then the add buttons becomes available again. It's available until you have set a switch for all your articulations. When all switches are here for all the articulations, then it's disabled again. So you can choose add and it will fill the blank. So the articulation 6 that was missing is recreated, and you can just go on and set everything again. A single click, let's say 6, and if I type 6 here and I just use return or tab, then the value high is also filled as well. Yeah, it's a huge time saver, this. So the add button is also a way when you're loading your articulations to detect if there is one missing articulation in among the switches. So once you've done your work, of course you need to save. If you loaded it, you can just save and it will just replace the articulation set you just set, but you can use the save as, and it's a very convenient way to make copies. So once you've made your changes, let's go back to Logic Pro to actually apply the changes, because Logic Pro doesn't apply the changes automatically. So you will have to load the articulation set again. So how do you do that? You have to force Logic to do it. So the way to do it is just to set it to none and then switch back to your articulation set. And if you go to edit, you will take benefit of what the changes you made in LASE. And you have to do it for all your projects. Yeah, there is no way to batch change the articulation sets in Logic. Again, it is saved with the project, and the plist are just reference file for you. It's a way to copy the articulation set from one project to another. That's the way Logic does. And we pretty much covered, but not exactly. For the sake of the demonstration, I will start creating a same articulation set in Logic and in LASE so that you can have a clear view on how much time you save. The case is very simple. It's 10 articulations. The output is MIDI notes starting from C1, and the switches is CC32 starting from 1. A very simple case. And let's see how much time it takes in both systems to get a result, and later we will do a conclusion. So as you can see, for even a very simple project, a very simple articulation set, it's twice quicker to do it in LASE. So I'll let you imagine the time it takes for a bigger project. And actually, I've got a bigger project. A long time ago, I made this in Logic. It's a very, very big articulation set. It took me around 3 hours, I'd say, to set all this. In LASE, I did all this in roughly 30 minutes. We're done. I hope that I did convince you that it's a very useful tool. I'm using it all the time. Go to my website. I'm open for every question. You can contact me here. There is my mail here, contact@loicdesjardins.com. And again, you'll benefit from a code, the YouTube 10, and you got 10% off the price, which is already very fair given the time you're saving. Have a nice one and see you on the next video. Bye-bye.